I'm going to be talking a little bit about business resiliency today. Of course, the subheading there, in uncertain times, which I think we could all agree has been the past little while. Since the beginning of COVID, really, it just seems like we've been on some pretty shaky ground in a lot of ways. So we'll just go through some ways on how to build a resilient business to face whatever is coming down the pipe next, because I'm sure that's going to happen. But before we do, I'll let you know a little bit about who I am, so you know where I'm coming from. I've been a part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem since about 2005, but what actually got me into appreciating the idea of entrepreneurship was some work I did in Lithuania, where I worked with a group where we did some medical missions over there. This was from about 1999 until 2005. Lithuania had got its independence previous to that from the Soviet Union, but a lot of things were falling through the cracks. And things like orphanages, old folks' homes, clinics and stuff, a lot of them had lost their funding and were really having trouble getting by there. So my job was to be out in Lithuania, going out into especially the more remote communities and finding where these places were and identifying what they need, and then trying to get donations from North America sent over there. And the reason this got me into entrepreneurship is, even though I was employed by somebody, it gave me a real autonomous kind of a role. And I thought, when I come back to Canada, I want that. I like that idea of setting my own schedule and kind of being the master of my own destiny. So when I came back, I jumped into real estate for a while, but quite quickly after that, I started the first of my businesses, which, I'll be honest, was an absolute failure, but a wonderful learning opportunity. I think that was my MBA right there. I started a second one, which was a roofing and siding company, in about 2009. I think I started that, and I sold that in 2019. So that was nice to be able to take something from scratch to a saleable company. And then I jumped in with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. So they're a federal lobby group, a nonprofit that takes what small business owners are facing and puts that into, collects data, puts that into arguments that we take to the federal government and say, hey, this is what our small business community is facing. What can we do to help? And my job there was to interview small business owners all around the kind of the central part of the province. And so I learned so much from these entrepreneurs, hearing what they were facing, hearing how they were trying to deal with it, and then seeing how they'd move forward. So that was another education in and of itself. Then I came over here to ATB, and I work as an entrepreneur ecosystem strategist. So as Anthony kind of mentioned there, I get out into communities, see what resources are available for entrepreneurs, and then try to amplify those through ATB if I can. And then also try to make sure that entrepreneurs have the resources or access to the resources that they need, and connect them to those things, whether it's ATB or something else in the community. One thing I've done is, through all of this, I got the itch to start another business. So in July, I actually launched another business, which isn't on the bio there, but it's a mobile tire service in Edmonton. So we just got that off the ground, hitting our first busy season right now. So it feels good to be back with my boots on the ground in the world of small business ownership. That QR code you see on your screen will take you to my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect with me. I'd love to hear your story, hear any questions that you might have, bounce ideas around, whatever it happens to be. I just love talking to other small business owners. My screen is being funny here. There we go. My work with ATB, though, centers around what we call our entrepreneur centers. So we have two physical locations, one in Edmonton and one in Calgary, and then we have a virtual version of it as well, which that QR code will take you to, or you can use atbentrepreneurscenter.com. So this is a resource that we've built that's free to use by any Alberta-based business. You do not have to be a customer of ATB. If you appreciate what we have there, we'd love if you become a customer, but that is not contingent on using any of the resources here. They're free for everyone. If you do visit that website, you'll find a lot of different articles and recorded webinars. Some of our templates and tools and guides are very handy in there. I'll introduce you to a couple of them during this presentation. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which will keep you up to date on any events that are coming up. But one of the things that is very valuable in there, and I'd just like to shout out a bit, is the Entrepreneur Resource Network, we call it. So you'll find a link on there to access this resource network. And what it is it's a database of all the support organizations around Alberta that specifically help small businesses and entrepreneurs. So you can go in there, you can look for the type of business you have, the size of business you have, and what kind of help you're looking for, and it'll help you narrow down, here's all the organizations that can help you or might be able to guide you in some way. So I'd really encourage you to check that out. Today, though, now that we've done the little plug for ATB Entrepreneur Center, is we're going to dive into a specific topic, which is this resiliency in challenging times. Now, I don't need to tell anybody. We all know we're navigating some tricky landscapes lately. You know, we've had some uncertainty. We've been dealing with inflation for a long time. This whole tariff thing has been floating around for a while now, and it all just leads to not really feeling like we're on solid ground sometimes. So the thing is, we wake up in the morning, if you're anything like me, and we look at the news, and it just seems a little bit overwhelming every morning. This morning, I was looking at my phone when my wife came downstairs. I got her coffee ready, like a good husband does, and she saw that I was looking at my phone. She's like, "So what's new in the world?" And I literally this morning just shook my head and said, "I don't even know. I'm reading things, but I can't make heads or tails of any of this." So we're all in this situation. So I feel for the guy in the picture there, kind of holding his head in frustration. But this has been building up over a few years. You know, we're still recovering from the steep inflation that we saw in 2021 and 2022. Our inflation numbers now year over year aren't too bad, but we're still trying to figure out how to deal with that rampant inflation that we saw over those years. We saw the supply chains be disrupted a couple of times over the past few years, and we've really started to see how fragile that system actually is. We've got this constantly shifting geopolitical landscape, and that was kind of what was getting me overwhelmed this morning. I don't even know who's saying what to who anymore. Everything seems to be changing on the fly. We've got tariffs in place now that, you know, we've always had to deal with tariffs, but in the past little while, it has been amplified where it's something that we have to think about almost on a daily basis. So very new to us. Like always, the loony's fluctuating. We got to keep track of what our money is actually worth. This has happened more, it's been more volatile, I guess, since COVID. So again, something we're still trying to adjust to. And it just keeps changing and changing. And what is happening underneath all of that? We've got all of this, you know, economic change going on and geopolitical change going on. And then underneath it, we have changing customer and employee expectations. We've got new generations coming into the workforce and becoming consumers who have very different values around business and work and consuming than some of the older generations did. And we're trying to adjust to this. On top of that, or I guess because of that, we've just got some shaky business confidence all around. CFIB actually tracks business confidence through some of those interviews that I mentioned that I used to do. We try to track how confident are business owners in the future. So how optimistic or pessimistic are they? And if you go to their website, you can find that data, just cfib.ca, I believe, and look for the small business barometer. And, you know, there's been some spikes of positivity over the past few years, but starting in about 2005, if you look at the data up to now, it's been kind of a constant decline in confidence amongst business owners. And this month, actually, we took a dip again. But that's not really surprising given what we're dealing with. There's just a lot of uncertainty out there and a lot of change that we're trying to navigate and figure out what to do with. So today, I want to try to give some practical strategies, not jargon or fluff or anything like this, just some clear steps that you can take to try to weather economic storms that may be on the horizon or the one that we're sort of in right now. My goal is to leave you with some actionable ideas that you can take back to your business this afternoon and say, hey, here's something I can do to strengthen my business a little bit. Right? So let's dive into that. The way I look at this is we're on a sea and it's kind of stormy right now. It's pretty rocky and we can't control that. We cannot control the sea. Nobody ever could. That's why there's so many good books and movies about stuff happening on the ocean, right? We can't control it, but what we can do is we can strengthen our boats so that we can survive on that sea a little bit better. And some ways to think about this is, you know, parts of the boat. Adaptability is one. I think of this like the map that you would have on your ship if you're trying to navigate the ocean. Do you know where the different routes are to sail? And if you do know where they are you willing to sail those routes? Are you willing to change and adapt your business based on what the ocean is doing? You have to know it, and you have to be willing to do it, which can be tricky. So basically, are you willing to shift your strategy? in a quick manner. Another is operational agility. Think about this as your rudder. So this is the way that you actually control which way the ship goes. How quickly can you change course and get to one of those new routes so that you can take advantage of what the sea is doing or avoid a challenge on the sea. The cool thing here is if you're a small business owner, you have a crazy advantage here. Small businesses can adjust their course. They have a strong rudder for a small ship. You can change that strategy very quickly. Whereas opposed to some of these bigger businesses where there's a lot of bureaucracy, that takes some time. So being a small business, this is one of your superpowers, is being able to be agile. Your fuel on this ship is your financial discipline. You need to know how much fuel you have, how fast you're burning it, and where to get more if you're a ship trying to get somewhere. And it's the exact same thing in business. Do you know your numbers enough to know, here's what I've got, here's what I need, here's how I get more, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the presentation as well. Your passengers on this boat is your customers, of course. So having customer-centric thinking. Passengers on a ship need to know that their captain is doing a good job, that he knows how to navigate the sea, or she knows how to navigate the sea. You don't want a mutiny on your hands. You don't want passengers rising up against you. Same thing in your business. Your customers need to know that you are taking care of your business in a way that keeps them safe in whatever way it is that you provide for them. They need to be able to trust you. And we'll talk again a little bit about that in the presentation. And then, of course, proactivity. This is the emergency plans that any ship would have on it, for different situations. Here's what we do. We need to have the same thing in our businesses. We have to know the possible challenges ahead and have solutions ready for them, being proactive, not reactive. It's very easy to plan for perfection, but planning for disruption is what helps us survive. So let's dive into those in a little bit more detail. Let's start with financial foundations. Every business owner needs to have visibility and flexibility with their cash. So what I mean with that is you need to know what your cash is doing and how to use it effectively. So this isn't just true in times of disruption. This is true at all times in business, really. And that's why it's the big cliche, know your numbers. It's on the little chalkboard beside that business owner in the picture. We hear that all the time. It is cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. We should know our numbers, right? So what I try to encourage business owners to do, and I know that this is tricky because, as I said before, I've owned a couple of businesses in the past. I own another one now. I know it's hard to find time to dig into your numbers, right? But it's imperative that you do it. So what we've tried to do at ATB is create a couple of tools to help you do that a little quicker and a little easier. So two tools that I'll mention that are both on that Entrepreneur Center website are the cash flow forecasting tool. So it's a 2-year month-by-month chart spreadsheet that you can use to project your expenses and your revenue for 2 years. I do say go in and try to do at least 6 months of that and keep it a rolling thing. So do a 6-month progression or projection, and then come back every month and fill in your actuals for the month that you just did, and then add the next month on. So you always have that 6-month rolling that you can compare your actuals to your projections. This exercise will help you get incredibly in touch with how the money is flowing in your company. It's also good to do if you're going to look for lending. We'll probably end up asking for a 2-year cash flow forecast. So if you've already kind of got that built, it's just one less thing you got to build, right? Another tool that would be helpful for you is the Small Business Pulse Check tool. So this one, and that's what the QR code will take you to on the screen there. It'll take you directly to the Pulse Check tool. It's designed to help you save even more time. So what we've done with this is we've said there's kind of 6 numbers that you really need to track at a minimum to have a good vision of where your business is going in the moment. And so we've built a tool where you plug in 6 numbers, and it has some formulas in that create some ratios for you and then plots them out on a graph. So what I like about it is it's nice and visual. I only have to find 6 numbers in my financial statements, plug them in there, and boom, I've got these graphs that kind of show me the trajectory of these different factors. So if you can even dedicate an hour a month to using the Pulse Check tool, that will really help you stay on track with knowing your numbers. So that's my soapbox for that part. Another thing to think about too is cash reserves, making sure that you have enough cash to get through a challenge that comes forward. And again, my advice would be minimum 3 months of operating expenses. Have that sitting somewhere liquid, have it earning interest, but have it liquid enough that you can get at it when you need it. You just never know when something's going to hit, and that is going to be your savior. If you do see something coming down the pipe, months aren't quite going the way that you like, maybe you're using the pulse check tool and a couple of the lines are trending in a direction you're not comfortable with, talk to your financial partners early. Don't wait until you're in dire straits to go and talk to your accountant and your banker. Talk to them as soon as you can see things might not be going the way that you'd like. They might be able to help you figure out ways that you can either avoid that challenge that might be coming, or at least prepare for it and get through it successfully. So be transparent with those things, with the experts that you have around you. They're there to help. Another one is, as you're doing those projections, understand the fees that are tied in to anything that you're buying for your business, especially your inputs, and adjust as necessary if you can. So a lot of times we think of the basic cost for our inputs in our business, but we're forgetting things like the shipping costs and the environmental fees that might be attached. There might be service fees that we're not accounting for, taxes, the tariffs, of course. This all needs to be compiled, and you need to understand how they play into the costs of providing what you do. So make sure that you break that down and have that knowledge, because there might be a way that you can shift and avoid some of that, or at least control it. And lastly, know how much credit you have available as a backup. Credit is there to be used wisely. And one of the wise ways to use it is to have it available and just know that it's there in case of an emergency. If you've got that emergency fund of cash and you've got some credit on your side, you will probably have an easier time getting through any kind of economic hardship that comes your way. So know how much you've got there, keep it free, and know that you have it as a plan B. The cash reserve and the credit, this is something I noticed with CFIB when COVID hit. I was working with them when the pandemic started. And it was very interesting to me. Some of the businesses that on the surface looked incredibly strong were the first ones to run out of cash and credit. And until the government subsidies came along, they were really struggling. Whereas some of the businesses that maybe didn't have that appearance, they just seemed small and simple, they had the cash sitting there. They had access to credit. They were able to keep operating, take care of their people until those government subsidies came. So it was very interesting to me to see which ones fell into which category and which ones surprised me. So again, know your numbers. If you can keep track of this and know month to month what you've got, how much you need, and where you can get more, that will help you on that C. Another one, of course, is rethinking your supply chains. Things don't seem too bad right now for most, as far as I know, but we did get introduced over the past few years to how fragile our supply chains can be. And depending on what happens with the geopolitical landscape, that could be tested very heavily again. So know where you're getting your things from, first of all, and reassess the risk. And I do, of course, like to say, see if you can find a Canadian supplier. U.S. suppliers have been very, very solid for a long, long time. And now that it might not be as trustworthy as it used to be. Not because of those suppliers or the people that own those businesses, but just because of the geopolitical landscape. That might not be as solid as we'd like it to be anymore. So I'd encourage you, try to find Canadian suppliers if you haven't already. A, for that reason, it helps solidify that supply chain for you, but B, it adds to our success as a nation, right? If we keep the money flowing between us, it just helps us strengthen. And that's something that we really need to do right now. Sometimes it actually might be a bit more expensive to buy from a Canadian supplier. I totally get that. But what it saves you in volatility and adds to our economy, which eventually rolls back to all of us, I think is worth it. So I'd encourage you to look for that. Thinking of the word friendshoring, as far as when we're looking at our suppliers, like who can we actually deal with that we consider trustworthy friends? U.S. is in that category and out of that category and back and forth. So I don't know what to say there. I don't know enough about it. But we do have countries, if you have to get from outside of Canada, that we at this point can see as friends. We've got Mexico and the UK and Australia, countries like this that we know, yes, we can trade safely with them at this point. Try to figure out for your business, how do you take advantage of those? And then aim to reduce any reliance you have on companies that are coming from countries that have geopolitical risk right now. Keep using them if you'd like to, but make sure you have options, because it's just so volatile right now. You never know when that is going to get interrupted. Another thing I'd say on the supply chain front is be in constant communication with your suppliers. If things go wrong, that should not be the first time they get to know you. Get to know the people that you're dealing with. Make sure that they know who you are while things are steady, because that way, if things do start to go funny, you have a contact. They know who you are. It's so much easier to navigate that problem if you're already on their radar and they're on yours. So don't wait until a crisis before you really start to get to know your supplier. Do that now. And another thing you might want to take a look at is your inventory policies. Depending on what you do, you might be holding inventory. So if you're in a business where you don't have an inventory, then don't worry about this part. But if you do hold an inventory, it might be a good time to look at how am I handling that? Am I doing it a just-in-time kind of a thing where you're ordering just enough to meet the demand that you have through your business? You might want to look at doing a just-in-case. Have that demand met, but a little bit extra in case supply chains are interrupted. Now, this means different costs and things like this, so it's something that you want to look through in detail. But do have it as a thought in the back of your mind. How are you handling your inventory? What if there was a disruption? What would that mean? And then plan accordingly. Basically, when it comes to supply chains, as it says at the bottom there, options are your armor. The more options you have to get what you need to serve your customers, the better position you're going to be in. So create options and make them as strong as possible through relationships. Speaking of relationships, doubling down on customers is often one of the key things to do during hard times for a business. Like I said before, they're the passengers on your ship. They need to have confidence that you're guiding them in the right direction and are going to keep them safe. So don't go dark on them. Keep that line of communication open. Be fairly transparent with them. And try to add value wherever you can. So think creatively for your industry about is there a way to bundle services? Is there some kind of ways that you can create how-to content so that you can help them get the most out of what they're getting from you, get the most value by the way that they interact with your product or service? Teach them about these things. Maybe there's some kind of loyalty perks you can introduce. Anything that you can do that shows your customer that you're taking care of them and that they can trust you even though things are a bit uncertain will be a boon to you in the future. A big part of this is making it easy to deal with you. I see it online all the time. I go to try to order something from a local company, so I'm not using Amazon or something. I'm trying to order directly from the company. And their order form or their process for ordering could be one of two things. It could be a nice, simple, easy process, which I love, or it can be very complicated where I'm having to go to a couple different pages. I'm entering the same information twice. I'm answering questions that I don't see the point of. And that is very discouraging, right? I'm very quick to back away from those. And I think we're all kind of the same. We don't want to have to jump through hoops just to get something that we need. So kind of do a little inventory of your ordering process if you're doing things online, or even if you're taking orders over the phone. Make sure it's easy for the customer to deal with you. This goes so far, and it's often very overlooked. We can build systems that are good for our businesses, no problem, because we know what we need on the back end, right? But think about that customer experience. Is it simple for them to deal with you? And are you making them feel that they can trust you to get through whatever uncertainty they're facing? Because remember, they're facing the same uncertainty, right? We're all business owners on this call, but we're also consumers. We're also just members of the community. We all face the same uncertainty. Your customers do too. How are you helping them feel that you are a safe place and a strong place to get them through whatever it is that they're facing? Now, this one is kind of close to my heart, I guess, because it's the whole purpose of what I do at ATB. There are so many support organizations out there for small businesses and entrepreneurs, and it can be a noisy ecosystem. So like I said, that's why we started that Entrepreneur Resource Network, to try to narrow it down for people. But do tap into all the supports that are out there. One thing that I love about Alberta is that most of the ecosystem that's there to support entrepreneurs is very much that idea of there is no wrong door. No matter who you talk to first, they can probably connect you to the right person, even if they're not it. So whether you talk to ATB or you talk to the Chamber of Commerce, maybe neither of them have the thing that you need right now, but they'll be able to connect you to who you do need to talk to, right? And I love that about the ecosystem in Alberta. It's very powerful that way. So do not be shy to reach out and ask for support. You will be guided to the right place. That in mind, on the topic we have today, I'll just highlight a few here. So within ATB, we've got a few things that you can leverage when it comes to, especially with the tariff thing, the ATB Tariff Hub. The URL is really long, so just Google ATB Tariff Hub. It'll take you right there. It has a bunch of tips and tricks for understanding tariffs and understanding what your actual options are. And it includes a link to the Canada Tariff Finder. So depending on your industry, you can go in there and see what tariffs are actually affecting you and what your options are there. So very handy tool. The 24 is put out by ATB. It is a daily newsletter that our economists put together. So they give you a tidbit every day of what's going on with the Alberta economy and how that plays into the world economy. And then on every Friday, it does a synopsis of the whole thing with a few extra tidbits in it too. So it will keep you on top of the news in that area. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, our Entrepreneur Center website, atbentrepreneurscenter.com. Just a lot of general business resources there with tips and tools and templates and things like that you can use to keep track of your own business. A couple of external ones I'd like to mention just in the face of all of the economic uncertainty is the EDC Trade Impact Protection Program. So this is Export Development Canada. They've got some supports in place that are they're trying to help you access capital. So what they've done is they've put together guarantees and insurances that will actually help you be able to access capital from your regular bank if you're exporting and you need some guarantees on what you're actually exporting. So it'll help you be able to access a bit more funding where maybe you couldn't without them. They've got a lot of other resources there too. So I'd encourage you to check that out. Just Google EDC Trade Impact Protection Program. Similar to that, the BDC is always there to help. They are a Crown corporation like ATB, except they're federal or provincial. But they have a Pivot to Grow program. So they've actually got some loans to help counter the effects of tariffs on Canadians exporting to the US specifically. But again, they do have a whole host of different supports as well. So I'd encourage you to just check out BDC in general for resources there. And then, of course, there's your local supports. The Chamber of Commerce, who is hosting this event right now, they're always willing to provide resources and provide guidance and connect you to the people that you need to talk to get to the next stage that you're looking for or to face a challenge. There's lots of advocacy groups out there. The Chamber does some of that. There's also the federal one that I mentioned before, Canadian Federation of Independent Business. It's a way that you can get your voice pooled with others and go together as a group to make sure that the challenges are being heard and that the governments can understand what they need to do to help out. On top of that is the industry associations as well. Depending on what industry you're in, there's probably an association that you can be a part of that A, helps you get resources, and B, gives you another voice to get the powers that be to hear what you're facing. So tap into these things. Don't try to go it alone. There are so many resources out there in Alberta and in your community. There's no reason to try to just be the lone business owner that never gets help. It's just so much easier when you've got people around you. If you'd like guidance on this, feel free to reach out to me. Again, my LinkedIn will be up at the end. I'd be happy to help out. Just remember, collaboration is the resilience multiplier. You can be as resilient as you want, but if you're with other resilient people, it's just that much more powerful. So don't go it alone. I think I said don't go it alone like 16 times there. So now that's cliche. I don't care. It's true. And lastly, building a resilient team around you. Your team, so this would be the crew that's guiding the boat with you. They're your biggest asset by far. This is your employees, your partners, contractors that might work with you. These are the people who, if they're not with you, it's going to be very, very hard to have a resilient business. But if they're with you, it is one of the key parts of facing challenges and being resilient. And the biggest part of this, I believe, is being honest and transparent with that team. Because vulnerability builds trust. If your team sees that you're being open and honest with them about what the business is facing, that is going to build trust with them, and they're going to want to contribute to it. And that's where you can be very effective in gathering their pooled knowledge, right? Involve them in problem solving. Present them with the challenges that your business is facing and say, what are you hearing about this in your world outside of our business? What are you hearing inside our business? What are our customers saying? Ask them these questions. Ask them what's working. Ask them what's not working. But then the key is listen to that. It's one thing to ask. It's another to truly listen to what your team is saying and say, okay, how do I take that and pull this together as a solution or inputs to a solution for the challenge that we're facing right now? You may do this already, and so you're reaping the benefits of it. If you haven't done that, you will be very surprised at how much knowledge and information and caring you will get from your team if you ask those questions, be transparent, and listen to their answers and take it into account. This will give you so much power because you'll be introduced to thoughts that you didn't know existed in your business once you do that step. So be transparent and listen to them. But then, of course, invest in them. Invest in upskilling them. No matter what it is that they need, try to be a part of the solution for getting their skills up to be able to contribute to your company even more and to be able to better themselves for their future. As a business owner, I believe that Richard Branson really nailed this. He kind of said that your employees are your customers. If you're the CEO or the business owner, your customers are your employees. Take care of them like they're your customers, and they will in turn take care of the business's customers as you do to them. And I've seen that play out in reality. It's not a myth. It works very well. So be honest with your people, listen to them, skill them up, treat them like they're your customer, and that will be reflected onto your customers. And remember, the customers are the lifeblood, and they need to feel safe with your business. How better to do that than have your employees feeling safe with you, who pass that on to your customer. So using these kind of methods, you can you get a lot of sense of an ownership from your team. Now, and that is just much more powerful. You don't want to have, a bunch of captains on a boat, but you do want to have a crew that gives feedback to the captain, tells them what they're seeing, and is willing to help do whatever they need to do to help that captain guide the ship. And that's what you're creating here. Building an adaptive mindset in your team where they're willing to go through those challenges with you is golden. Because like I said in the beginning, a smaller company, you have the ability to turn quickly, but your crew needs to be willing to do that with you and trust you in the direction that you're taking it and act quickly. So build that mindset with them. Know that they're your number one resource and treat them like that. So we've kind of whipped through a bunch of information there. Like I said, I'm happy to sit down and chat with anybody who'd like to go into more detail. But as far as next steps go for what I talked about here, this is all I say, this is the time to start. Right now, we've been through a couple of pretty big things. It seems, maybe we're in a calm patch here, but there's very likely some more changes coming down the pipe. Don't wait until another crisis hits your business before you start to build resiliency. Do it now when you have the opportunity. So then when the crisis hits, you're not reacting, you're already prepared to go through it. So review your financials, audit your supply chain, re-engage your customers if you're not already really in touch with them. Look at what resources are around you, reach out into the community and into the support ecosystem, learn about what's there that you can take advantage of, and start booking meetings with people who you think can help. Don't go it alone. My big reminder here, adaptability is your competitive advantages for a small business, right? Always remember that. You can change quickly. That is your superpower in the face of all of these changes. Hope is not a strategy, but preparation is. Build your boat well, and then whatever storm hits, we're going to be okay. There's a couple more QR codes on the left. That's my LinkedIn again. Feel free to connect with me and ask any questions you have. I love digging into these things and seeing, once you know the actual business you're digging with, you can get in some real granular details. And go from there. And then on the right is the ATB Entrepreneur Center webpage. do check out the resources there and see how we can help you.